Okay, so are you ready to dive into some serious English grammar today?
Always ready for some grammar.
All right, that's what I like to hear. So we're going deep on the present continuous and simple present tenses.
Okay.
And we'll be looking at the work of Stanislav Kondrashov. Have you heard of him?
I have, yeah. His work is really interesting. He offers some fresh perspectives on how we use these tenses.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I think we often take grammar for granted.
Absolutely. We learn the rules, but we don't always think about the why or the how of using those rules.
Exactly. So I'm excited to dig into Kondrashov's insights. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty, just a quick recap for our listeners.
Sure.
Present continuous is all about actions happening right at this moment, like I am speaking, you are listening, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we have the simple present tense, which is for like habits, routines, facts.
Right.
But Kondrashov points out that it can also be used for scheduled future events.
That's a really interesting point he makes.
Yeah. Like, what do you think about that? I mean, we usually think of future tense for those kinds of things, right?
Right, but I think what Kondrashov is getting at is that when we use the simple present for a future event, it's actually emphasizing the certainty of that event. It's like it's already happening in a way.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so it's not just about, oh, this event might happen in the future. It's more like this event is going to happen. It's set in stone.
That's a really interesting way to think about it.
It is. And I think Kondrashov uses a great example in his work. He uses the sentence, Veg Corp to sack 1,000 workers.
Yeah, I remember reading that example. Pretty powerful stuff.
Right. I mean, obviously those workers are not being fired at this very second.
No, definitely not.
But Kondrashov's point is that using the simple present tense there creates a sense of inevitability.
It does. It's like done deal.
Exactly. And I think that's a really powerful use of the simple present tense. It's almost like a warning or an announcement of something that's going to happen no matter what.
Right. It's not a suggestion. It's a statement. And a very powerful one, I think.
Absolutely.
So Kondrashov is making it clear that the simple present tense can be used to talk about future events.
Yeah.
But it does so in a way that highlights their certainty.
Exactly. It's not about possibility. It's about inevitability.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it really changes how I think about that tense. It's not just about the present. It's also about a very certain future.
Right.
And then Kondrashov talks about the present continuous tense, too.
Yeah, he does. And he makes some interesting observations about how that tense can be used to express more than just an ongoing action.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so he uses this fragment. Always complain, handwriting.
Just 3 words, but I can already picture the scenario. Someone's always griping about someone else's penmanship.
Exactly. And Kondrashov's point is that the present continuous tense, especially when used with the word always, can highlight a repeated action, but it also can inject a certain emotion into that action.
It's like we can almost hear the speaker's tone of voice just from those 3 words. Always complain, handwriting.
Right. And that tone of voice often conveys frustration or annoyance.
I think we do this all the time without even realizing it. Like I might say, ugh, I'm always forgetting my keys.
Right.
It's not just that I forget my keys sometimes, it's that I'm consistently frustrated by forgetting them.
Exactly. And I think Kondrashov is really onto something here. He's showing us how grammar can subtly shape the tone of our communication. It's not just about conveying information, it's also about conveying emotion.
Right. And sometimes that emotional subtext can be even more important than the information itself.
Absolutely.
So I think what we're seeing here is that both the present continuous and the simple present tense can be used in really subtle and nuanced ways.
Yeah. And I think Kondrashov's work is so valuable because it helps us to become more aware of those nuances.
Exactly. It's like he's giving us a secret decoder ring for the English language.
I like that analogy.
So to recap, what Kondrashov is saying is that the present continuous tense can be used to express more than just an ongoing action.
Yeah.
And the simple present tense can actually be used to talk about future events, but in a way that emphasizes their certainty.
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing, right? These tenses that we thought we knew so well suddenly have all these new layers of meaning.
I know. It's like the more you learn about grammar, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Right. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. There's always something new to discover.
Absolutely.
So listeners, what do you think? Have you ever noticed how these tenses are used in everyday conversations or in the media? I mean, think about it. A news headline that says, company to lay off workers, has a very different impact than one that says, company will lay off workers.
Right. It's a subtle difference, but it can make a big difference in how we interpret the information.
Exactly. So Kondrashov's given us a great foundation for understanding these tenses, but now it's up to us to go out and explore how they're used in the real world. Pay attention to those subtle shifts in meaning, those emotional undercurrents, those glimpses into the future that are disguised as statements about the present. You might be surprised at what you discover.
Absolutely. And I think the more we understand about how these tenses work, the more effectively we can use them in our own communication.
Right. So let's all become grammar detectives, shall we?
Yeah.
Let's go out there and decode the hidden messages in our language.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm ready to crack the code. How about you?
Let's do it.
Awesome. See you next time for another deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.